Welcome back to Boiler House Garage. In this video we'll be doing an oil and filter service on a 2018 Mini Cooper Countryman 1.5 cylinder turbo. This is the F60 model, which shares the same platform as the front wheel drive versions of the BMW 2 Series. I took care to avoid crushing the plastic sill cover, as I wanted to jack the car up on the sill but use the jacking point, which is also plastic, to support the car on axle stands. I'm also using a cloth on that just to protect the plastic from being crushed by the weight on the metal. Even with the towel, you can still see the circular mark that the jack has left on the plastic sill cover, so it's quite important to do this to avoid the plastic getting cracked or marked worse. Although I'm sure these plastic jacking points are fit for purpose, remember that jacks in most garages do actually have rubber feet. Same applies on the other side. I just have to be a little bit inventive with the towel here because I've only got one left. I'm just going to move it across and put the axle stand under it like so. The under tray on this Mini doesn't need removing. You just undo these 4 plastic cam screws. Once they're undone, you can open up these hinged little sections of the under tray to access the oil filter area and the oil sump drain plug. The frontmost area is the oil filter location. Also take note of the Torx star fitting in the centre of it, which I'll be referring back to later. And the rearmost section has the oil sump drain plug. It's a flat type with a crush washer. The sump plug is 17mm, so just take a ratchet to it and hopefully it should have only been done up hand tight and you should be able to open it with a bit of force. These types of sump plugs do start to drip right away, so once you have loosened it, make sure you get your oil container ready and then continue to undo the drain plug by hand. This is so you can keep hold of the drain plug and washer before it sort of drops out of a socket and into the rapidly filling bowl of oil. Now we wait for that to drain, and as we do we can clean off the sump plug and maybe fit the new washer. As this is a Bosch kit, along with other quality products, they do include a new sump plug washer in with the kit. Some cheaper ones might not, in which case you can get one separately or just turn the old one the other way up and reuse it. Ideally refit the sump plug by hand, that way you just avoid cross-threading. And make sure you give it a little bit of a wipe as well, because it will start to squeeze out little last remnants of oil dripping out of it. A good rule of thumb, if you're not going to use a small torque wrench on the sump plug, is just to get the ratchet where it's just making contact and then do no more than a quarter turn. That way it'll be just enough to crush the washer, but you won't strip the threads in the sump. Again, wipe off any drips of oil that may come out of it now that you've tightened it. We're now done with the oil drain side, and this flap can be closed back up if you wish, and now we're moving on to the oil filter. Once we've got some light on the matter, the centre part of this oil filter, the star bit here, can be undone and act as a drain plug, because the oil filter being based at the bottom and facing upside down is still full of oil despite the fact we've drained it from the sump. However, I'm going to do this the lazy and messy way and just undo the oil filter with a 32mm socket. Now you'll see why this is the messy way. As we start to undo it by hand, the oil will start to spill over the edge of the filter housing. You can let that drain for a little while, and then when you take the housing out, just empty it out into your oil bowl. Now let's clean up the housing and add the new filter components. The centre plug is a T50 Torx bit. Now I've removed it, I've noticed that the replacement is slightly different. The original one's got a longer piece on there, so I'm not sure if it's just a modified part or whether it's the wrong one. This filter kit was ordered by using the car's number plate, and the model and year and such was double checked to make sure it was correct. The filter cartridges are actually the same size, but it's the circular clip that fits into the filter housing is a different size, and it doesn't have the recess to allow that longer centre drain piece to fit. So I'm going to have to now go and explore several motor factors to try and get a replacement of the correct size. Today's video is brought to you by Lens Store. If, like me, you're as blind as a bat but don't want to look like some specky nerd, you may already wear or wish to try contact lenses. Lens Store offer only the best quality brands, including AccuView Oasis and Focus Dailies, for some of the most competitive prices around. Order before 11 PM and Lens Store will have it with you the next day. Orders can be made without any referral copy of your prescription, and by using my link in the description below you will get 10% off. Now back to the video. At the third motor factors in another town. That's him, thank you.
Thank you.
Nice one, thanks very much for your help, appreciate it. Cheers now, bye bye. Even here they first offered me the filter that I already had, so it does appear that there's nothing on the systems to determine which of the filters are used with this particular 1.5 litre 3-cylinder BMW engine. Shout out to Motor Parts Direct in Carterton, as they've helped me out a couple of times recently, trying to find parts that other motor factors didn't have. As I'm in the next town I've got to hurry back as I'm losing daylight fast. The Civic oil burner's engine sounds quite funny when it's played at double speed. So here's the Cooper's filter number if you need it. I will have the Bosch part number at the end of this video. This Torx fitting might actually be a telltale of what filter you have, as the other filters seem to have a hexagonal Allen key style fitting. I'll just use a screwdriver to swap the seal over. Now just click the new filter in. And now fit this centre piece, which will now actually fit.
Refitting is reverse of removal.
I'm now refitting the filter housing by hand, and once it's on hand tight I'll ratchet it back on fully. Like with the sump plug, once the filter has touched home, tighten it, but this time to no more than 1/8 of a turn. Some of these plastic housings can get brittle over time, so be wary. Wipe up any remaining smudges of oil, then refill the engine with oil. Along with replacing the air filter, it was too dark to film, but I used Total Quartz 5W30. Annoyingly, this engine has no dipstick, instead having an electronic level sensor read on the infotainment screen. It says oil level OK, but stupidly says it won't give me the level until the car has been run for half an hour, and since I've pulled from an unmarked 20-litre container, the amount I put in was guesswork, so I'd have preferred to know the exact level before I started the engine. I've made sure to note on the paperwork that I've used Cooper's filters instead of the Bosch supplied. It pays to be honest when you're putting your stamp to it. I've contacted the supplier, Dr. Car Parts, to ask why they sent the wrong one, and they promptly sent a replacement which can be used on this car's next service. So now we have 3 part numbers for you, and as I suspected earlier, even the Bosch filter has the Torx star-shaped centre bit, so this and the hexagonal Allen key type might be useful identifiers. Failing that, just order both part numbers P7277 and P7204 and send the other one back. Remember to subscribe, as I will next upload the cabin filter replacement video for this car, plus much more. Thanks very much for watching.